You're tuned in to Nabantu Connect, connecting you to insights from Africa's leading minds.
A warm welcome to Nabantu Connect. In today's episode, we get to know Michelle Slabbert, one of the leading IT service managers for one of South Africa's banks. In today's conversation, we deep dive into leadership skills as well as what made her get to this specific point in her career. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We are really privileged to have you here. You and I had a bit of a conversation before this started, and we both figured that we both love books. But for those that don't know you, would you mind just introducing yourself?
Perfect. So I'm Michelle Slabbert, and I suppose there's many different roles that I play in my life. I don't think I should maybe mention my age either, because that might be the one. No, sensitive topic. No, it's not at all. I'm 52, and in my sort of formal role, I work in Standard Bank, and I head up the group IT service management practice for Standard Bank. In my private life, I'm a wife, a mom to two adult kids now, and two fur babies. So that's sort of the roles that I play in my life at a high level.
No, thank you, Michelle. And just before we started rolling, you and I were talking about your early life. And would you mind just sharing that again for us and how you got started into where you are now?
Yes, so when sort of at school, I was always more academic. Always enjoyed the sort of math, science, those types of things. And when I got to deciding what to do after school, university wasn't really an option at that point. Number one, I didn't like to study. So, coming from school, I quite quickly learned if I chose subjects where I could apply myself, I listened in class, understood the principles, I didn't really have to study. So that was right up my alley. And then, so I really didn't want to go to university and study at that stage. And also just financially, that my dad also said, look, there isn't money for varsity. If you want to study, get a bursary. But there's not. So I was quite comfortable with that, and decided I wanted to go into computer programming. I had a little bit of insight because my dad was in that world. I didn't know a lot about it, but I thought that was a world that I believed I could enjoy. And so I applied at the bank for a learnership. For at that stage, it was called computer programming, a mainframe software developer. And I then got a learnership and did a 6-month course in COBOL programming, and then started working at the bank. And for many years, I was in the sort of technical world. So I was a COBOL programmer, but did on different applications in different areas within the bank, and then went forward into sort of other languages. And your more object-oriented type languages, C++, on our branch, delivery systems, also Java. But all those years, as I was saying to you, quite introverted, very technical, very happy in my own little bubble there. And then at a point in time, I was given an opportunity, my first line management opportunity. And if I remember, it was around 2000, 2001 at that stage, where I was given an opportunity to lead a group of technical engineers, software engineers. And I remember at that stage, one of the guys that would be working in my team was this big 6'7" Afrikaans, guy. Very intimidating, sort of. I'm 5 foot nothing, so you can imagine, like I talk to him and I get a crick in my neck. And it was like, how do I manage, like a person like this? But it was, we worked in the team, and I think that was the first time I sort of saw, you just connect with people. And you create relationships with people. You manage nothing. It's just about pulling people together and connecting. And so that was then where I went into now, starting to lead a team and play in the management space. After a while of doing that, there was an operating model change in the organization where they split technical from the people aspect. So if you were technical, you went back to purely being technical. And then they had a role very closely aligned to human resources, but called a resource manager, where you then managed pools of people. So when that change happened, I went back into the technical world. But I missed having that interaction with people. I really, so coming from a place where, like I said, I was more introverted, people were not my thing. Now, where I was missing actually working with people. And so that was quite a shift. I then decided to join the resource management team and only work with people. That was a big learning curve. It was, your whole day is filled with engaging with people, also working with vendors, contracting houses, third parties there, doing interviews. So I learned a lot, during that stint. And a while after doing that, I was then allocated to set up and partner with another of our executives in the area and focus on software testing and actually build up our team and formalize that area within the bank. So I joined as a resource manager looking after the people, but then got an opportunity to combine both again in then taking on a more technical role, but leading a team of people again. And that was my sweet spot for this. So I really enjoy that, where it is a role where, you can deliver and there's a technical component of it, but you are leading and influencing people and making a difference to the people to then deliver, on a particular outcome. So yeah, I think that's the sort of the journey that I've traveled.
That sounds so interesting. So do you think your dad had obviously a huge influence in your first choice of going into it? Did he definitely influence why you selected it, right?
I think so. I can't tell you exactly why, but there must have been an influence, definitely an influence there. Also, to be very honest, like my father is my hero, still is my hero to this day. So the work ethic that, that he had, various aspects of the way, because I think at that stage he also, when I was now moving across from school into the work world, he was a leader of teams as well, managing, teams. I could see how he managed his teams at work, the relationship he had. Also the way he treated us as kids, always. I've never to this day seen my dad shout. Never, never, never. Always calm, always reasonable. And yeah, just such an, even if like as kids, you do get into situations, never panic, never shout. He would always just be there. So I think it was a combination of, obviously, he was playing in that space. It was an area then that was a bit of a comfort area moving into, but just his role model in general definitely had an impact.
And you've mentioned quite something interesting around the fact that you considered yourself quite an introvert. So you deliberately didn't want to work with individuals, and computers seemed like a natural fit. But then this idea of being a leader or a manager of others was kind of just fell onto you. It wasn't a deliberate choice. So do you think leadership is something that anybody can learn? Or do you think that, even if you did not have a choice into it, that your leadership capabilities automatically shine?
I think that with anything, anyone can learn, yes. I think if somebody wants to do something, look, you would have natural talents, natural abilities, I think, and then there's abilities that you've got to work a little bit harder on. And there I'm drawing on, I've also, like I said, I've always been more academic, but in the last 8 years, I've dabbled in, dare I say, becoming a bit more athletic, something I thought I could never do, but with application, I'm enjoying it, and not good as in I'm never going to go to the Olympics, but I'm doing okay. So I do think there's always people will have natural gifts and talents, but I don't think ever you never limit yourself. It is something that people can learn. There's frameworks, there's tools, there's different, you can even shape your thinking. And I've seen that just in my own journey, how, you just the way you think and the way you approach things actually fundamentally change. So I think anybody can change. The other thing that, and it's funny because when I was, I think standard 5, so grade 7 now, we did felt school back in the day, which I didn't enjoy, by the way. But now if I reflect, and I don't know why, but at Feld School, they'd actually they broke us up into whatever teams at some stage, and they made me the leader of one of the teams. And I remember thinking at that stage, like, but why? You know, I don't have that natural, like, leadership. I didn't see it in myself back then. I don't naturally pull people together. Why would you ever have done that? So, and I'm wondering, did they see something I wasn't aware of? But even when we sort of the first few years into when I was working, there was a fundamental moment, and I'll never forget it. At the time, a little bit embarrassing, but now if I think back to it, quite a pivotal moment where we were out in one of our branches. In fact, I think it might have been even Broomer Lake, the branch over there, and the branch was having an issue. So I was allocated to go there to have a look technically at what was happening. And we had a business analyst that also came with, and we were working together to have a look at the problem. And before the branch opened, we'd arrived and we went for coffee. And she was talking, asking questions, and me in my introvertedness was answering her, you know, yes or no or answer. And at one point she looked at me, she was quite a few years older than me, and she says, you know, Michelle, to have a conversation, you also need to contribute to the conversation. Sure. Very, very brave and bold, but and in that moment I'm like, ugh. But it was a pivotal moment where I became aware of, you know, what I also need to do, and not just be an observer, not just be sort of sitting back, but actively also, you know, building up those relationships. So that was quite a pivotal moment that I'll never forget. And I thank her for her boldness in doing that. But yes, I think if I compare the person that I was to the person that I've grown into being, I do believe people can change. Absolutely. With the right coaching, the right mentorship, obviously being open to it. You need to be open. But I do believe, yes.
And it was interesting that you say in that challenging moment, or that pivotal moment, how she challenged you and you kind of now took on that role of you challenging yourself, because you've now started running, you mentioned, and that all those passions that you have into it. Do you think that plays an important role of you challenging yourself?
Yes, I think it's you need to. And I think that's another thing that, you know, that I love to when I engage with people, whether it's in the work context or outside, you know, social, in our running club, any of those contexts, is for people to be aware they can challenge themselves. You know, not to, because so many times, and I myself, you know, what was there, and I could still be there for moments, but so many people are sort of autopilot, you know, almost just hamster on a wheel, day by day, without actually realizing what they can truly, you know, truly do, and setting limits on themselves as well. You know, thinking, well, I can't, or I don't have the ability to do something, or I don't have that opportunity, without realizing actually what they can do. So I actively encourage people to think beyond those limits, rather than just imposing that on you. But it does come from within. Yeah. Nobody else can motivate you or, you know, cause you to do something. It's actually got to come from within you. And then definitely people around you can have a great impact. But it starts with you being open and aware to that.
That open and awareness. So you mentioned that you started running. So how was that shift? I'm assuming you didn't run before, so that it was like, so what went through your mind to say, I'm going to start running?
So, like I said, you know, all through school, I was more academic, and that was where I was like, I am an academic. I am not an athlete at all. School also, you know, the school system doesn't really encourage us to stretch, you know, into areas that you're not perceived as good at. So in school, if you're not, you know, top 3 of whatever you're doing, you're a spectator. You know, you must go sing and spectate sports. I also, in standard 9, so grade 11, had a big backup, a really, really big backup. And a combination of all of those things was like, I'm not strong physically. I'll focus on my academic strengths. And it was, like I said, probably, about eight years ago that we'd always gone past, like on a Saturday morning where the park run was happening, and looked at that. It looks so nice. So I've always loved being in nature, going for walks, but not much more than that. And then I decided, well, let's actually go and join the park run. And the first time we took a slow amble, did park run. And but you get so inspired by everybody else is running and jogging. And then it was like, just between this tree and this tree, let me jog a little bit. I didn't break. Okay, let me jog 2 trees next time. And so just little bit by little bit until doing that, for a few weeks. And then thought, well, let me go into my area and go and have a little bit of a jog. And I thought if I jog from my house to sort of our corner shops at the edge of the area and back, I think that's about 5 Ks. Took my phone, did my little jog, 2 Ks, okay? And it was tough. And it's like, oh, only 2 Ks. But I just then started realizing how much stronger I was feeling, better I was feeling, sort of clears your head as well. So it's not just physical, it actually clears your head. And started running, in our area, but sort of just up to 5 Ks. And so there I started around August with, the first time I went to park run. By January the 1st, I said I wanted to have run 10 kilometers. That was my goal, which I then did.
Sure.
And then I bumped into 2 people training in our area. They were comrades runners, training for comrades. And bumped into them, and they said, well, come run with us, which I did. And then a whole new sort of, because they were part of our local running club, got into the running club, and oh my goodness, peer pressure, friends that make you run marathons. And so just being with them, running with them, and it was, okay, now let's, move to doing a 21. And then it was by the following year, November, ran my first marathon. I never thought I could run 5 Ks, and I ended up running a marathon. And that was just for me sort of a testament in the limits we set ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves, and what you truly can do, if you want to. And it's a metaphor for life. It really is a metaphor for life.
And leadership, I guess, right? And how leaders lead others into being present, but also challenging and putting that out there. So how would you describe your leadership style?
So I think if I had to use one word, participative, but I definitely do believe in supporting and growing people. So for me, what's important for a leader to do is to create the vision. So a leader creates that direction of where we want to move to, and clarity, so that the people that are in your team, or not even necessarily in your team, but if you are influencing a broader group of people, it's so that they know where are we moving towards, what is the purpose, what do we want to achieve, and then that they can ask questions as well. So it's bringing that vision and then the clarity together with that, and then you get out of people's way. You've got, so if I look at my team at work, they're a group of very strong, very skilled, very motivated individuals. They know what they need to do and how they need to do it. It's not for me, unless, of course, that they ask for that or they need a bit of guidance or a bit of coaching. But typically, they're employed with skills and they know what they need to do. But I will then, if they're facing any obstacles in terms of either organizational obstacles or other obstacles, I'm there to help them remove those obstacles and then to grow them as well, to be the best people that they can be in their roles. So always having that, development plan for them to say there's areas that you're really strong in. Where do you battle? Where's there something that doesn't serve you, and how can we grow that area, or an area of strength that you want to, stretch even further into. So that for me is, is leadership. It's about creating the direction, supporting your people, removing obstacles, and then together as a team, just becoming really strong, giving them what they need, to succeed. And I've always, my sort of policy is, if you treat people well, treat them holistically as well, because it's not just what they are at work. It's them as a person. and they've got roles in their personal lives as well, but they are who they are, not just what they bring to work. Getting to know them, understanding, what are they looking for, what's important for them, because it's different person to person, and how can I as a leader support them in that. And then people will go the extra mile, people are happy, people are engaged. Delivery just happens if you do that.
And I guess you found the sweet spot, right? Because you both this brilliant leader, and at the same time you've got that very strong, and still do, very strong technical background. So you know where they're playing into and what is their reality that goes into that. So taking that into account, what would you say is the biggest challenge then for your sort of teams that you need to address as a leader?
So yes, so it's definitely, as you were saying, having that technical background, and still to this day, I'm in the service management space, making sure that technically, I am certified. I technically know about the area that I lead, and so that I can also be their technical leader. It's not only about leading, it's also about then taking input from others, but you've got enough of the technical know-how that you know how to navigate through that. So, but as I mentioned, it's not only about leading, it's about taking input, because that's very important, and then shaping, where you need to go to. And if I look at with our team today, we're a small team, but we run a group practice. So we need to influence a community of service management practitioners in the whole Standard Bank group. And that includes, all our different geographies as well. It's not based on structural authority, it's based on influence. We've got to bring this group together as well and influence and lead them in terms of, the technical aspects of service management, but together with personal skills, so that they can actually go out into, in their different business units and geographies and make an impact as well. And I think that is probably one of our biggest, I'm not going to say challenges, I'm going to say areas of stretch that we need to get in, is to pull people together and find ways, to do that very effectively, and to grow this community together, without coming across as being, like an auditor with a stick, or a policeman, or a lecturer, because the wisdom also lies in the community, and it's about harnessing that. So I'm actually just this week, tomorrow we're starting, because all through the years of managing teams, I've always considered personal skills very important. So not only technical skills, but personal skills as well. So most years I've got a program where we go through some aspect of personal skills, whether we use a tool like Insights, which has been one of our favorite tools to use as a foundation and a basis for many conversations and training opportunities. But I often use something like that, and then that is also team building, because in traveling that path together of personal skill training, we also spend time together as a team, and typically you have deep conversations, so you get to know people. You've got the safe space where you share, and so it is about that sharing, not just about work, but about us as humans. And we're actually starting a program that we've created for this year, specifically for our team, where we're looking at that art of influencing and art of facilitation, where we can bring large groups of people together, but really not be the, in facilitation, they say not just being the sage on the stage, but being that guide on the side and pulling this community together. So that's our current area of focus and growth that we are looking at.
And if you look towards the future, because that sounds like you have got a very clear plan of what that should bring, because I can imagine in your world there's a lot of changes happening consistently. Brené Brown refers to this age of transformation that we're constantly in, and I think in your world specifically, with all the new technologies that are so rapidly coming into it, do you then think harnessing that wisdom of the communities, is that where you see the let's call it the golden thread is going to be, to really harness that wisdom? Or do you view it, is there additional things that we need for the future?
Yes, so I think for the future, look, in our world, the latest, where the future lies is around AI, artificial intelligence, and wherever that's going to take us. And, I think there's a lot of opportunities, that lie in that space, and we don't even know, where that will lead. But we did an exercise at the bank a few years ago where we actually had a look at, as we are going into the future, what are the skills that we need to hire for? Thinking, as we went into that, thinking it would be technical skills that we need to, because you need the people that are going to build the AIs, manage the AIs, well, until they are learning to code. So, we may not even need technical skills that much into the future. But going through this process of unpacking what do we really need and what skills should we be hiring for, the end result was quite surprising, and because it was personal skills. It was, you want people, and especially in the IT world, this is quite eye-opening, you want people that are team players, people that can collaborate, people that can be empathetic with others, that can form connections. So it all comes back to these personal skills. Technical skills can be taught, arguably, but it comes to us working together and this collaboration that becomes fundamental in moving us forward for the future.
And that's definitely an African thing, right? That whole idea of Ubuntu and staying into and collecting that. I know that's such an overused word these days, but that really is where the magic lies, is when we come together and you can harness that details into it.
So what's so funny? We actually, every year, well, it's our third year now, I host an IT service management conference for our whole community in Standard Bank. This year's theme is Ubuntu.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, so how awesome, the universe aligned.
Absolutely.
But it's exactly that, is we are stronger as a community together. It's not about sitting, in any silo, suffering or not knowing the way forward. It is about us coming together, having those conversations, whether it is, we've even, in certain, like, in work contexts or conference contexts, where you've got, for example, a group of women coming together. And then you start talking about your children and the challenges that you have. And people have advice and guidance and what they do, what's worked for them. And you talk together. And it's so amazing when you just realize it's not only me. Whereas before you thought I'm the only one battling with things. And as soon as you come together and talk about something, you realize, but it's not. And just talking about it already makes it better. It's not about fixing it. It's just talking. And so that is, what I aim and what I like to create at work as well. It's bringing communities together where you actually do talk about, it's a safe space where you can share challenges and, just creating that opportunity to actually share where someone will listen to you. Listening is important as well, but you've got a place where you can come to, and there's a group of people also listening and taking that forward.
And just sharing that space together, right, into it. That's really true. So if you were to give some advice for young people coming into the business and wanting to go into IT in general, what is the things that you would tell them?
Yeah, that's and I think if I think of what I share with my daughter and my son as an example, and the conversations that we have, most of what I share them, and it's something we don't learn in school, but it's how to work with people. Those are skills that people go out into the world. I look at the different industries, and I look at different job contexts. We are not taught how to actually work together with people to get the best for ourselves and the other person as well. So it is those skills linked to collaboration. It is things like mentoring, coaching, that become so important. And it's just creating that awareness, because if I look at, so as part of the role that I do at work, we run quite a few programs where we skill people up on the technical aspects of service management. But at the heart of all the programs, we start with self, understanding self, and then, and that can relate to personal and technical skills, because we've got different ways of thinking, some more aligned to very technical as well. But it's about understanding self, being aware of self, and then you start navigating yourself through that world. So that is something that personally I advocate, is just having that awareness in terms of you yourself, and then building on that in terms of the path that you then travel.
Thank you for that. And you have got such a rich history, career history. What would you like to be remembered as or for?
It's interesting. A few weeks ago, with a good friend of mine, we work together as well. She works with me on some of the programs, and we had a conversation on purpose. And I kind of knew it, but it's sometimes difficult to articulate. And for me, it's really just, I think that leaving my footprints on the hearts of others is if I had to articulate it, it's inspiring people, or creating that inspiration in a person to realize, to be aware of what they can do, and how they themselves can grow, not set limits, but actually intentionally create their own destiny out into the world. That would be, that's what I would like to leave. It was beautiful in one of the, I mentioned, the programs that we run, and 2 weeks ago, we had a whole group of our colleagues from the various African countries. And just through the work that we do, having guilds, having the conferences that I mentioned. And one of the gentlemen that was on the program, at the end of the program, we did some appreciations. And he shared an appreciation with me where he said, I have done so much more than anybody else in terms of his growth within our company. I wasn't even aware of that. And so just that back, like my heart felt, really warm and fuzzy. And that for me is just, whether it is in the corporate context of where I work, whether it is in a social context, or, my own children, for example, if I've touched a heart, then I've lived my purpose.
Oh, that's beautiful. And on that beautiful note, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it, and we wish you all the best. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It was really, really awesome. I enjoyed it. Reflection is always good, and thinking about the intention into the future is so powerful. So thank you for carving out that time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Nabantu Connect. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube for more.